Welcome back to episode 2 of Ollie Foreman's The Mindset. Today I am joined by Lawrence Thor. Lawrence, it's a pleasure to have you on there.
Hey, thank you for having me, honestly.
No worries. So you've kind of become, I'd say, a little bit of a celebrity really in the tree world with what you've done and what you've become in quite, I would say, quite a short period of time really, in terms of you look at the size of a company that you've built in the time frame. It's pretty impressive.
Thank you, man. Thank you for saying that. I don't feel like a celebrity, with like, you don't really get too much time to take a step back and look at everything. Because when you're just so in it and when it's just everything's so 100 mile an hour, it's only really moments like this that you kind of think, actually, maybe we're doing all right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's always like that thing, isn't it, where you're going so fast, you don't like poke your head up to see what's going on.
That's right.
And then when you stand still to take stuff in, you're like, man, how have I got here?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and it was actually something that was brought up in conversation the other day. One of my we was actually in the boardroom in the offices, and we was having a chat with all the team leaders, and it was like just a chat over a pizza and stuff like that, at the end of the day. And one of them actually said something very similar. Was like, "Oh, bro, like just take a look around and look what we've all achieved." And just to. And it's very rare moments like that. You do have them moments where you just sit back and you're like, yo, actually, whoa, we're actually pretty big and what we've achieved so far is great. But then after you finish that conversation, you just snap back into work mode and then you just keep going again. So
I don't think anyone really tells you that about, like, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, but no one actually truly knows without experiencing it firsthand, like how non-stop things become.
It's crazy, bro. Like, honestly, like if you'd have told me back when I was first thinking about when I first said to myself I was going to start my own business, just what I was going to be going through, every single step of the way. If I'm honest with you, I probably would have said that doesn't really sound like my kind of thing. So I'm going to stick to where I'm at right now. But long and behold, we're here now. I'm too deep. I've gone too far.
What was the thing that kind of like made you want to leave employment and go down the sort of entrepreneurship route?
I didn't ever want to leave employment, to be honest with you. Nah, man. It was never really the thing where I was like, look, now I've always wanted to start my own business. And I mean, you always, as an employee, you always think that you want to have your own business. So you kind of go, oh yeah, I want to have my own business, but you never actually make that jump. The thing that led to me making my jump was losing my job and being fired. That's what led to me actually being like, right, I've been fired. Like I've been fired. What am I going to do? And my back was up against the wall. Really, I didn't really have a choice, And all roads led to actually just having to just sort this problem out myself, rather than have to rely on an employer to solve this money problem out for me.
No, definitely. I think that's like a real good example of something which you think is shit. You're like, oh, fuck that guy. Yeah. And then without that guy.
Are we allowed to swear on this? Yeah. Good. I'm good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I was going to ask
you're
that,
good.
But you know what I'm like on my... you can't be this fucking good at swearing without being like it being part of your personality. So no, I'm glad you said the first swear word. We're allowed to swear.
But it's just like, without those things, like in those times where you're like, oh mate, that guy was such a prick for doing that. And then 6 years down the line, you're like, if he hadn't have done that, I probably won't be in this situation.
Bro, honestly, like every single thing that's gone in my life, when it seemed hard, when I've seen down, when I've seen hard, like, when someone's done something to me where in the moment you think like, you can get angry, or you might, it always works out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just do the right thing all the time. And it will always figure itself out eventually. But I always say to people, like, in the moment, it might seem like it's happening to you. But actually what you realize is after it's happening for you, and you wouldn't be in this position or have all these great things happening to you and everyone around you without you hadn't gone through that struggle or pain or
I think like pain is such like it's like yin and yang. It's such like a catalyst for change. It's like you can either let pain consume you and just get stuck, or you can use it kind of like a lesson and build up from that.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't want to fall into that victim trap. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no,
there's a lot of people that fall into the trap of, I am the subject of X and there's not really much I can do about it. And this person, the reason why I'm here is because this person did that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. In the moment, we do that. You know,
Yeah.
I do it. You know, I've been completely fucked over by so many people.
Yeah.
Over the last 7 years, let alone before Thor's Trees was started. But you do kind of you have to snap yourself out of that victim mentality very quickly and just get on with.
I think it's a lot to do with like high emotions. In high emotion situations, like everything can seem like it's going to end, but it's not. I think I put something up on my Instagram the other day. It was like, don't let a situation control your emotions, and you control the situation. And so many people just overlook the fact that they're in a high state of emotion.
Yeah, I think what it is you've got your logical brain and then you've got your emotional brain, right? And they don't always, they're not always where they should be. So, you know, when things happen to you always, because we're human, and if you're just a good person and you mean well, the emotions hit first. But I think for me is what determines success is just how quickly you can leave that emotional state.
Yeah.
And then go back into logical mode and solve the problem.
Yeah.
For everyone that is a beneficiary of this problem being solved. So, and don't get me wrong, like there is an absolute place for an emotional brain and there is an absolute place for a logical brain. And I think we really need to just try and figure out to yourself, like what kind of brain do I need to use right now? And what's going to help us get out of this sticky situation and move forward. So,
did you always think like that from the start, or was there like mistakes or lessons, as I would prefer to call it, along the way, which kind of like then brought on that way of thinking?
I'd say it's come from a lot of situations where I've had to learn the hard way.
Yeah,
I think that's where I've learned to be this Lawrence or this Thor or this director, CEO, however you want to label me, husband, brother, son, cousin, however you want to label me. You're just a product of all of your happenings, aren't you? So we just like it's come from a lot of hard work, graft, laughter, sadness, depression, fear. All of those situations that have happened to me in that period of time is what's led me to be this guy that, I think really well sometimes and I don't think very well sometimes. And hopefully I can learn from those lessons.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's what it is really, is your past kind of like sculptures who you become and eventually.
Yeah. No, definitely. I'm a big fan of like putting myself in uncomfortable positions to then grow. I think if I'm sitting around and I'm too comfortable for too long, I just kind of like stagnate where I am.
I think it's really important that we put ourselves in, you're right, you're absolutely right. We put ourselves in difficult situations. And when you do feel comfortable, kind of think, right, am I still growing as an individual? I'm still in growth mode. I'm still young. I'm still trying to drive. I still want better for myself. I still want better for everybody around me. And the only way I'm going to do that is by putting myself in a really uncomfortable place. And I do tend to do that quite a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things that happens in business that I could pretty much sit back for a day and I can almost guarantee 5 fucking terrible shit pieces. Like just stuff's going to happen. Like things are going to fuck up. They just do all the time.
Yeah.
So things come to me anyway, but there does come part of my personal growth strategy where I like to put myself in some really uncomfortable positions because that's the only way that I feel like I can force myself to grow, Because don't get me wrong, like I could now, with everything that I've achieved and what we've achieved as an organization and company, I could definitely right now just sit back and just do nothing and everything is going to be fine.
Yeah.
And just make sure that a few loose ends get tied up. But that's not the guy that I am and that's not the guy that I want to be. I want to continuously, one of our core values at Thor's Trees is, and one of my personal ones is to continuously strive to deliver excellence. So to continuously strive is that, once you've got one thing in your armory, once you've got one thing that you're able to do, one skill that you've acquired, you can now use that skill to get to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it is when it comes to that. Really.
Yeah. There's times like when you kind of think like, this is where I want to be, but you kind of like get to the point where you kind of like build yourself in a box and you can't see outside of that box.
Yeah.
And then you meet someone and then it just like shows you a whole new world. And you're like, damn, like I didn't think of that.
Yeah. I mean, a great example of that would be, for example, like I literally just got back from my honeymoon, right? So we went to the Amalfi Coast in Italy.
Nice. How was it?
It was amazing, bro. It was spectacular. I
saw
phenomenal.
your Instagram stories. I was like, bro, that looks fucking lovely.
Yeah, but and we stayed in this phenomenal hotel. You know, the views from our suite was insane. The pictures just don't do it justice. You know, you look at these pictures and postcards and you think like, yeah, it's just just trying to sell it. No, bro, it's that and better. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that. So, but going back to the subject, you know, I didn't book that, and there would be no way that I would spend that much money on a holiday. There's absolutely no way. I'm not going to talk money, but it was a fucking lot. And for me to say it was a fucking lot, it was a lot, yeah. But I didn't book it. My wife booked it.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And if you give her the reins, like, you know, you practically just write a blank check. Yeah, it's good. And when she told me the price of the honeymoon, I was like, there's no way we're going on that. There's no way we're going on that. That's mad. We're not spending it. And she was like, no, we're going on it. And by the way, we've paid for it. And I was like, you've done what? You've done what? But it was an uncomfortable position to be in because I've never spent that much money on a holiday, right? But or even on a honeymoon on holiday, let alone your honeymoon. But to then for it to then go and you turn up and on the day you've got your transfers from the hotel and everything's sorted for you. The hotel was phenomenal on the way in. It's beautiful. It's in the ideal location. The weather is perfect, you know, blue seas where you can actually see the fish. Like you can see the fish through the sea. Like it's mad, yeah?
Yeah.
And then you, at the end of it, you're like, thank God I went through that part where that barrier where I was like, that was probably not something I felt comfortable doing. I would have much rather just spent £2,000 on a week away. But to spend 10 times that was nuts, yeah? And then, but now I'm like, thank God I went on that honeymoon. Like, it really opened my eyes up to what was out there. And it's now put me at a completely new level because I now think, and also the people that we met there were a different type of person, you know, the experiences, like we rented our own yacht and stuff like that. And, you know, went on to a tour to Capri and all of that romantic stuff. I would have never done that if I had not overcome that small fear of, really, are we spending that much money on this honeymoon?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, especially like if it leads to like building your network, which is like, I believe, such an important thing to like grow even more. Like, you wouldn't be able to grow to levels what everyone is now without a good network.
Yeah, and I mean, and in that process, I met. I was very lucky enough to meet the hotel owner, the hotel owner's son. We had dinner at a Michelin star restaurant, and like we were I was blown away when the chef came up to me and asked me how the meal was, and I told him everything. I went into detail, man. Like the spoons were different when they were going in your mouth, and I was telling him about how it hit a different part of my palate, and he was fascinated with the detail as to what I was absorbing as a consumer of his product.
Yeah.
In the end, he actually invited me and my wife into the kitchen to show us around the kitchen of this Michelin star restaurant. All the chefs and the sous chefs, he introduced me to them. He didn't do that to anyone else in that restaurant other than me, probably because of the detail that I was absorbing this space and you know, this experience in that. When I do something, I love to do it properly and I love to be all in. Yeah. So I'm even looking at the cutlery, the food, how it's put together, and then to have an opportunity to say that to the head chef, the founder of the restaurant, and then him invite me in. Mate, it was a mind-blowing experience. So I'd never forget that honeymoon. It was the best, and I'm grateful now to my wife for booking it. But at the time, I was like, babe, like this is not normal.
I mean, it's like one of those things really where it costs a lot of money, but when you look back on it, it's like you can't put a price on what that was.
No.
And that's the beauty of it.
And you never know where we're going to be in a year, right?
Yeah,
you never know what's going to happen. Like, God forbid, but I might get cancer, I might die. That might have been the best experience for my wife, or you know, I would have never got, like, you know, or something terrible might happen, something great might happen, but you never know what's going to happen next. So just absorb that moment while it's there, appreciate it, and then worry about the bad stuff later.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like living in the present. It's like not being fearful of the future. Like the past is the past is what it is. Like enjoy the moment. I think that took a long time for me to learn that.
I mean, look, like even like, you know, I think I see that you smoke quite a lot of cigars, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's one of the things I wanted to touch on with you in this podcast was that, you know, I smoke cigars in my spare time, and I've seen you tag me in a few of your posts and say like, yo, Thor, what do you think of this one? And this is a Cuban one, this is a New Age one, and I can see you know, going over with the ring gauges and stuff like that. It's mad. So I actually wanted to gift you something to say thanks for taking me on the podcast. But like I've got a load of cigars for you to pick. This is my pouch, so I'm not going to give away this, but there's a load of cigars that I've got here from my collection. I've got quite a big collection of cigars, as you already know, right? So I've actually bought you some cigars to pick from to say thank you for taking me on this podcast. There's quite a few in there. You've got a couple Cohibas, we've got some Partagasses, we've got some Behikis, you've got some Trinidads.
Absolute hero.
If you want to maybe take a couple of these cigars as a thank you from me to you,
I will definitely hit you up
I'm
on
sure
that after.
you'll enjoy smoking some of these in your spare time, just as a small thank you from me to you to say, you know.
Wow, I really appreciate that, man.
So yeah, I'm like, you know, it's always nice to just share a fellow cigar moment with someone, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I mean, for me, cigar smoking, like, because it's not like you're smoking a cigarette.
No.
Like, a cigarette you can last like 5-10 minutes, maybe if you drag it out a bit. Like a cigar, like a good sized cigar, you're looking about an hour to hour and a half, and like you choose. Like, you're conscious of who you're spending that time with.
Yes.
To talk about stuff. And even if I'm not with anyone, and it's great because it means I get to sit outside, I just get to reflect or just read a book. And it's such a nice, like, kind of like downtime for me to like work in my mind on things.
Yeah, I think that is the beauty of smoking a cigar. You know, like people think, oh, it's for people who are rich and all this stuff. It's really not. For me, like, you know, I went through my introduction to smoking cigars was with a good friend of mine, George, who you now do work with as well.
Yeah.
And you know, we were actually we were in Gauchos. I was actually really stressed out at that moment in time in my life. There was a lot of stuff going on. It was a good few months ago, and I was really stressed. So George called me up one time. He's like, yo, you know what? We're going to go Gauchos. You know what George is like with food, right? So he was like, look, food will sort it out always. And I was like, okay, cool. So took him up on the offer for Gauchos, his treat. And sat down, had a really nice meal, had a really good steak. And then this waiter comes up to us, right? And he's like, oh, you know, do you want, this is after all the food, dessert's done, yeah? And he's like, do you want to have a look at the cigar menu? I'm like, I don't smoke cigars, bro. Like, what do you think I am? Like, but then I was like, but me being me, I was like, just bring it over. Let me have a look at it. All right. So yeah, let's have a look at it. So we looked at. So I opened up this. So this geezer brings over this menu, and the cigar menu was bigger than the actual menu at Gauchos. Yeah, like there was a full list of all of these different types of cigars and what have you, and the prices and everything. Yeah. So I was looking at these things like, you know, you've got Partagas series D or whatever, and, you know, you're looking through and it tells you exactly what you can expect from the flavors of the cigar, right? So, you know, you've got woody notes and tobacco notes and fruity notes and what have you. But then next to it was like 1 hour, 45 minutes, 35 minutes, 1 hour and a half, 2 hours. I was thinking like, what is this like? And then I asked, and obviously it clicked for me when I realized that obviously cigars are. So you've got this. So you've got a Partagas series, like a Series D number 6. That cigar is going to take a little bit quicker to smoke than what this cigar is going to take, right? Because obviously it's longer. But then you've also got this cigar, which is just almost the same size, but it's thicker, so it's going to take a little bit. But one might be more intense than another. One's going to have a different type of note than another. One's been rolled different, you know, they're different brands. One's a Cohiba, one's a Partagas, you know, you've got Trinidad. So similarly to how you've got drinks, right? You know, like if you're gonna have like a vodka, it's going to be very different to you having a beer or an ale, you know, or same with if you were going to have like, you know, I'll have like a ginger ale, right? Different, completely different drink, right? And one takes a little, and it really clicked for me when I was like, of course, that makes sense. So then me and George picked a really nice cigar from the menu. We chose a Romeo and Juliet. I think it was called like a Petite Churchill or something like that. It's like a 45-minute smoke.
Yeah.
And we ended up going outside. We sat at the back of Gaucho's over a really nice open fire, and we had such a good conversation. It was like, it was exactly what I needed, as well as the meal. But it was exactly what I needed to just get over that little blip of being really stressed out of work or really stressed out with this particular situation. And we finished the cigar over 45 minutes. And that's now how I look at cigars. It's my way of actually being able to appreciate what's happening in the moment with a friend, maybe by yourself, taking time out and just appreciating that time over that cigar that's probably taken. I mean, like this one here, for example, this was rolled in 2014, but so it's a limited edition 2014. That's years ago that cigar was made, and it took an absolute master of a blender to put this cigar together anyway. So that person put all of that time in, plus the length that it took to grow those leaves and all that. There's been a whole process towards making this cigar. And now I'm gifting myself that process of that expert, rolling and making that cigar to give to me or a friend or a colleague. And we're going to now appreciate that moment and be present. Yeah. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that is what's so beautiful about, I mean, like, especially like, as you mentioned, like stress, especially like running a company, like one bit of stress just avalanches, and you're stressed about that, and then something else happens and you're thinking about that, and then your mind's just like being torn apart trying to like cater for all these things going on, and then you don't think about stopping for like 5 minutes, at least you just want to keep trying to solve the problem. And it just gets worse. In
business, like, problems can, if you allow it to, become compounding. Everything compounds, everything gets worse. Yeah. Like you think as an employee, or when you've got a particular role, a particular job to do in a business, your problem to be solved is everything to do with that particular thing. And when something goes wrong, let's say it's accounts and you're trying to chase up a payment or something, your job is to get that payment in. And once your job is done, that's it. Yeah. You now move on to your other task. As a business owner, you have everyone's problem. Yeah. You have the marketing problem, the accounting problem, the payroll problem, the procurement problem, the training problem, the insurance problem, the payments problem, the suppliers problem, the van that just broke down problem, the employee that didn't turn up problem, and then you then had to, as well as absorb that energy and that crisis that you're in, you have to allocate it to a particular member of staff if you're in that position to be able to do so, or you have to absorb that yourself and then try and solve that on top of the other problem, top of the other problem, and you're right, it can become very overwhelming if you allow it to, and what I've actually learned to do over the last, say, 6-7 years since we've been going is, I read this very good book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I don't know if you've read into that book yet.
No, I haven't read it.
It's a super good book. I highly recommend it to anyone that's looking to get into entrepreneurship. If you've been thinking about starting up your own business, don't do it until you've read that book. Yeah. But one of the habits is almost learning how to allocate tasks and prioritize, right? Prioritizing tasks is a really important part of having your own business, or being a part of any business, or even being person anyway, in the real world. And it teaches you to have 4 quadrants. You've got important and not important, urgent and not urgent. And obviously things that are important and urgent, you do. And, the things that are not important and not urgent are probably not something that you should be doing right now. But, and it really teaches you how to place tasks in quadrants to say, what should I be doing right now? Or maybe when you're in a crisis and something's going wrong, what should we be doing right now to make sure that we get number 1 priority solved first, and then gently allocate all those tasks out to yourself. So then you don't become this massive, overwhelmed, stressed ball of person. And you end up breaking down and building up anxiety, and anxiety leads to depression. And now you're by yourself, and no one understands where you're at right now. And so that's really worked for me. So I'd recommend that to anyone.
Yeah, no, definitely. I have to read the book. You have to write it down for me. I'll take it off you.
I'll get you a copy. My treat.
There we go. Thank you. He's like the gift that keeps on giving.
I am. Yeah.
But yeah, I know you wanted to talk about like the effects of stress that you've like dealt with, sort of, since starting Thor's trees.
Yeah, I think what it is, bro, like, me being on social media, I'm always trying to push out positivity, you know?
Yeah.
I'm always trying to inspire others and, you know, help people and educate them. Maybe make them laugh in the process is normally a good way of my way of delivering. But what I try not to expose too many people of is the stresses of having your own business and the lonely place that you will find yourself in.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. I will guarantee you will find yourself in a very lonely place that not many people will understand. Yeah. And you will try and explain it to people, and you will try and converse with your trusted ones and your loved ones, but they don't understand it and nor should they. You know, they shouldn't. And your job is almost to, I'd say, shield them from it. You know, your employees should never know how bad things can potentially be. Yeah. You know, because that's not their job to absorb that stress. That's your job to absorb that stress. And same thing with your family members. What I really thought would be beneficial to your listeners would be to talk about the long-term effects of what stress can do to you, both in your health and your mindset, your surroundings and stuff like that. And actually, I think it's really important that people talk about things to people, you know, and even if they don't, there is someone out there that will listen. There is someone out there that will understand. And, you know, they do say a problem shared is a problem halved. I'm not quite, I don't think so generous of that, but I think, you know, if you talk about things enough, when I talk about my problems to the people that I trust the most, we do solve the problem a little bit more better than if you were to just be this pool of mess in the corner of the room, crying yourself to sleep, or you know, staring at the ceiling at night, trying to figure out how you can fall asleep, or you know.
That's I always found, like, even if they don't understand it, like, fully, like, even just putting it out there, kind of like, it's a little bit of weight lifted off you once you say it out loud to someone. That's what I found. That's that. Like, when I was struggling with mental health, that definitely helped. Talking.
Yeah, I think talking's one of the many drugs that you can take. Yeah, you know. You know, and I use the word drug, not literally, but metaphorically, in that you really do need to use talking as part of the solution. It's not the solution. It's not going to solve the problem. I mean, it might if the person on the other side of the conversation can solve it for you, but it's not the way of solving it. But I think it should certainly form part of the formula.
Oh yeah, there's like a whole range of things that come into then eventually becoming that solution, as it were. But I think at the end of the day, it is only you can solve it. Like, no one can solve it for you. They can give you advice and like a little bit of help, but at the end of the day, like, it's down to yourself to make that decision and choice. Yeah,
I mean, look, for me personally, I've got people that I rely on for many different things, right? And you know, my wife can't solve that problem, but you know, my consultant might be able to solve that problem. But my consultant can't solve that problem. My wife can only solve that problem. Yeah. You know, my best friend, I can have a conversation with him about something. There are some things it's probably best not just talking to him about, because it's not really an offload. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as long as you have in life people that you can lean on in those niches of topics, I think you'll be fine. You know, but it's just trying to find those people that you know that you can rely on. You know, you're not going to talk to a single bachelor person who's like cheated on every single one of his girlfriends and is actually going strip club tonight. Relationship advice, probably not the guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you need relationship advice, maybe you should speak to a friend or a colleague or a family member who's been in a long-term relationship and has been married for many years and understands that situation and maybe been in it many times, and maybe can give you a little bit of an insight to how to walk out of this problem or this anxiety or this situation that you tend to find yourself in. And just that little bit of advice might be that little thing that will get you out of this hole. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, especially like when you're in that hole, like, things which seem so obvious just fly straight over your head. And then someone tells you it and you're like, wait a minute, that was so obvious. Like,
it's easy to give advice. It's hard to take your own advice, isn't it? You know,
I always do that. I'm like, yes, I'm I'm a guru. I can give you all this advice, but will I listen to my own advice? No.
It never seems like a good idea. Do you know what I mean? Like, and obviously and that's why it's really important that you place yourself around these people that you trust the most, because chances are you'd probably say the same thing to them. Do you know what I mean? So if they're only going to tell you what you tell yourself, but in that moment that you're in, it's very hard to find sometimes it's very hard to find a light through the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, no, 100%. You kind of like doubt everything that you say when you're in that situation. Like you get a lot of doubt that comes in.
Yeah, I mean, and even like, you know, one of the long-term effects of stress could be, it is going to be your health. And I've been going through 7 years of consistent micro stressful situations. Like, no doubt there has never been a day when I've not been stressed out about something. And now when a small problem hits my table, it doesn't seem that big because I've been doing this for many more years. But should these problems that hit my table or my desk now had been the problems that I'm dealing with, that I would have been presented with 5 years ago, I would have been a hell of a wreck. But because I've been through this before plenty of times, it's not that big of a deal. You learn to solve it and move, you know.
100%.
But the long-term effects of having to solve problems is what I'm finding at the moment. I've got so many things that I've even just over the last month had to overcome or learning to overcome with my health. I've found out news recently that I'm pre-diabetic, you know, and that is and should I keep on this train of eating the same way I was and drinking the same way, not drinking, I don't drink alcohol, but like, you know, not hydrating enough and not getting enough sleep and not watching my macros and diet is a huge part of being a good entrepreneur if you want to do it for a long time.
I mean, it's as the saying goes, like your health is your wealth. Like you could have billions, but if you're in no fit state to enjoy that money, then what's the point?
Absolutely. You know, you've got what Ty Lopez says as the four pillars of life: health, wealth, love, and happiness. And there's no point having all this wealth if you haven't got the health to enjoy it in the years to come. And you know, in the same way, you can have all the money in the world, but if you haven't got love, you know, or someone to share that with, you know, it's a very lonely place to be. So if you can find a really good balance of the health, wealth, love, and happiness in your day-to-days, in your life as you move, you know, one is not more important than the other. But and what I've had to learn recently in everything, in building this organization, is that my health has it's been one of those things that I haven't been paying attention to. Yeah, I go on runs. Yeah, I go to the gym and I'm on my dues paid, like hashtag dues paid and all that stuff. And
has that kind of like helped you at all? Did you find it made a difference when you started going to the gym and doing like the dues paid?
It does. I mean, it gives me some, especially when I post about it, I use my social media personally for accountability. You know, I really want to hold and if I don't do it, every night, I'll get people commenting on my Instagram saying, bro, I haven't seen you in the gym for like, you know, XYZ, and like, what's going on? Getting to get fat and all this, you know, and I've got, you know, but I think, so yeah, it's helped me out, but it hasn't been the thing that I've, you know, and maybe I would have been in a lot more work. Maybe I would have been type 2 diabetic by now, should I had not trained and should I not gone on the gym. But you know, for the first 3 years of building Thor's trees, I was eating ramen noodles every day, like literally shin cups every day, or going down to the Chinese like wholesaler, getting these big boxes of like ramen noodles of like spicy, and all you have to do is add water, maybe, you know, and just eat that. That's a meal. Yeah. Consistently doing that every single day, for years, is obviously, now you go back in hindsight, you're like, that's not good for you. Yeah. But in the moment, you're like, yeah, that's cool. It solved the problem. I'm not hungry anymore. But continuously feeding yourself of the E numbers and the carbohydrate and the that particular type of food is not good for you, you know. And it did get me to where I am now. But now I really need to start focusing on health, and I need to focus on nutrition and that.
What, if you don't mind me asking, like, what was the point? Like, when was the point that you sort of realised your health was sort of not in the best of what it used to be?
Honestly, it was finding out that it's not. It was the point when I realized that I needed to really focus on my health was when I found out that I probably can't have kids naturally.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Was you know, it was back in April. You know, we've been trying for a kid for just over a year, and hearing the news from the consultant at the time tell me that it's very unlikely you're going to be able to conceive kids naturally because of your sperm count, was something that really hit me, man. Like, and I was like, why? Like, I got everything. I could. Where have I gone wrong? Do you know what I mean? Like, that was a real moment for me, and that's been what I've been trying to. That's been the challenge that I've been going through just over the last 3 months, is trying to, one, like, program yourself and just talk about it, you know, to people or someone, because you never think to yourself, that's gonna be me, you know. I work hard, you know, I eat fairly okay, my diet's not particularly bad, you know, I'm in a good healthy relationship, you know, I do good things for people, I try to all the time, you know. I've like, what is it? What's led to this point now where I can't have kids? What do you mean I can't have kids? Like, even as a man, never do you think that's going to be something that you're going to have to overcome. You know, we default, or society defaults to, she can't have kids, not he can't have kids.
Yeah.
You know, so when getting that news from the consultant, and then, you know, I remember when it happened, they brought out this sheet, and they were explaining to everything just become white noise after that. Everything was white noise. It was like it was a movie. Do you know what I mean? Like, just being like, fuck, man, like, it doesn't matter what she's saying now. I've heard the news, innit? So it's like, it's just mad. And then have to come out and have a conversation with my wife, and her tell me, oh, everything's going to be okay, because she's a medical professional anyway, right? Yeah. So I remember the consultant saying to me, all it takes is just one sperm to meet one egg, and then it's a baby, you know, and you've got it. And it's like, yeah, but looking at the numbers just don't. So just to be clear, so everybody knows, yeah, you, for every load, you know, for every ejaculation load, you're supposed to have 15 million sperms. This is my understanding of it, is you're meant to have 15 million sperms for every 100 million, for 100 milliliters. And then of that, a certain percentage is mobile, which means it's moving. And of that, the motility, which is the way that the morphology is of all the sperms are supposed to look like something. And then after that, you know, you've got your concentration, and there's so many other little mini factors and measurements that they do to give you this. You've got a good sperm count, you've got a bad sperm count, yeah. Mine was so low that there were some of those things that they were trying to calculate that they couldn't even do. They were like, the test said we can't do that because of this, and we can't do that because of this. So I've got, back in April, I had what was supposed to be 15 million, 100,000 okay sperms to be able to find an egg. Do you know what I mean? Which is that's like basically saying, I'm gonna drop you here, and you got to figure out how to get to Eiffel Tower, and I'm not gonna give you a map, and you know what I mean? You know nothing about navigation or nothing. In fact, I'm not even gonna give you a vehicle. And by the way, you're in a desert and there's no water for 50 miles. That's like telling that sperm to find that fucking egg. Do you know what I mean? So just trying to overcome that over the last few months has been a journey for me and my wife, you know, and it's been difficult for her to see me like this. And on top of that, I'm having to maintain and still grow this business and be there for my colleagues, as well as be there for my wife, as well as try and be there for myself to overcome that. And that was the moment really when that doctor said that you can't have kids. That I thought, right, I really need to start sorting out my health now, because this is like
100%, or is there still a chance? Like, so if your health sort of like if you improve.
So there's always a chance, man. Yeah. Like, you know, if anybody knows me and anyone follows me on social media, or anybody knows me personally, bro, like, I will never take no as an answer. Yeah. Like I'm all in. You know, once I've got over that little blip and I've absorbed it emotionally, I will go back into logical mode and we solve that problem. So nothing is never impossible. Yeah. You know, it's not like there are no sperms, or it's not like they've chopped off my dick. Do you know what I mean? And there is no way you can, do you know what I mean? Or I don't know, man. But so it's not a no, it's not a never. It's just very unlikely I'm going to be able to conceive kids naturally. But there are obviously other routes that we can potentially go down, the IVF route, you know, and stuff like that. We're now trying to process and calculate whether that's something that we can do. I'm now working with one of the top sperm consultants in the country, and I'm I've seen him a couple of times. Post finding out that I had a low sperm count, we obviously did blood tests, and I find out from that I'm actually pre-diabetic.
Okay.
And pre-diabetes can have a role in an impact on your fertility. I also found out recently that I'm actually going for surgery on Monday because I've got a varicose vein. I've got a varicocele on my left testicle. So that means that I've now got to have an operation to get that varicocele drained and then cut off. So then, and that could be a big contributing factor towards as to why. So what me and the consultants are now working with is working out all of the micro elements that are probably contributing to my sperm count being so low. Now, when we solve those problems, the pre-diabetes, the sleep, the stress, the hydration, the varicocele, the microbiome tests, and how I've got to take some antibiotics to be able to control my microbiology. There were some small red flags with that were going to be that can be changed. That would impact your sperm count, your mobility, your motility. That they will eventually hopefully get it up to a point where it's like, even if you can't conceive naturally, we can pick. We've got a good amount of sperms to pick from that we can now plant in, and we can start trying to work at getting a child eventually. But never do you think when being a man, that your fertility is going to be a problem for you. Society.
You're still real young, aren't you?
I don't feel it.
Yeah. How old are you? Are you 33?
I'm 31.
31.
31.
31. Exactly. That's still.
So we've still got time, man. Yeah. We've still got time, and it's really important. And what I would tell someone if they were in my position, and they were telling me this problem to me, I'd be like, bro, take a look around you, man. Okay, that's one problem, but look at what we've got. You've got your health, like in many ways. You're here. You've got love. You've got people here around here that you trust. You've got clothes on your back. You've got food in the fridge. Those absolute bare those things there are what some people don't have in life. We've got freedom. We can go. Me and you can go downstairs right now, and we've got enough money in the bank to buy a cup of coffee. There were many families that I was raised really poor when I was when we were young. We didn't have a lot at all. We had love and had family and all those things that come with that. I had a great family that supported me in my upbringing. Although my mum was a single parent, and that comes with that's a completely different conversation. But it really puts things into perspective, because you think, I know I'm in this situation where it feels like it's happening to you. Eventually one day, and maybe by me talking about it, I realize that it's happening for me. And maybe if I can leverage this bad situation that I'm in and talk about it on a podcast and help men actually realize that it's okay to not be okay. And hopefully there's a happy ever after with this situation for me. I can help others in this situation that I seem to find myself in, where I'm in a real low place.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's like real good to be like that. Like a bad situation, like you can use it to sort of try and help someone else as well.
Definitely.
And I think a lot more people should do that, and you'd get a lot more of the world problems solved.
I think it's one way of just trying to overcome it, knowing that I'm in a bit of a sticky, shitty place right now, and I feel really lonely, and I feel really stressed out, and I don't really see a way out, and I know I've got a load of people around me that are experts in their field that are helping me. But one day that will be a gift that I can help someone get through. Hopefully when I'm successful at, achieving this, and just having one child, just one. I just want one healthy child, nothing else, bro. That, I'll be able to help someone else overcome this stress, because now I've been through that. I know what you're feeling, bro. I know exactly what you're going through. I know the thoughts, the dark side to what you're going, the loneliness and the suicidal thoughts in some ways. And, obviously that's a very quick thing that you need to get overcome, but it's a process, and everything is just a process. And once you get through that, you get to the next bit. And now, right, there's that bit and that bit. So hopefully one day I'll be able to leverage this really dark, bad situation that I seem to find myself in. But for now, I'm in it, and it's not. It's hard, man.
Oh yeah, 100%. I like I've like saying I always say it's like from the lowest lows come the highest highs. It's like stick in it, and you will get out of that and go up.
And you know what? The more I talk about it to the people that I trust the most, or the people that I don't mind opening up to, and now obviously I'm all for trying to help people with this situation that I seem to find myself in. So like I'm happy to talk about it to anyone, you know, and hopefully this will get, you know, I get to post it on my social media, and maybe, you know, with you and the voice will get out.
Yeah.
It will help someone else, you know, realize that it's not a lonely place, and even with some of the people that I've opened up to. In fact, there was one particular guy that I mentioned this over dinner with him and his wife, and it was so surreal, this conversation, because everything that I'm going through now is exactly what he went through. You know, and in fact, to a point where we found out we're seeing exactly the same consultants. I'm seeing Mr. Ramsey. He saw Mr. Ramsey. His wife was seeing Melanie Brown. My wife was seeing Melanie Brown. He had a varicocele on his testicle. I had a varicocele on my testicle. He was a business owner. I'm a business owner. Like, there were so many coincidences of our situation, and thank God, like his wife now is even to the sperm count, like he had a super low sperm count, not as low as mine, but he had a very low sperm count. After he'd attacked all of these things with his consultant and everything, his wife is now pregnant. So there is light to the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
In his situation, and hopefully there will be with mine. And just by talking about it to someone, as I say, a problem. So as we said earlier, problems spoken is a problem halved. You know, I feel like now that I've heard that conversation with him, and we've had that conversation, there is potentially light at the end of the tunnel, and there's hope, you know. And now and with hope, you can do everything with hope.
Oh, 100%. Like, you can be in the darkest places, and as long as you have a tiny bit of hope, that's all that matters.
But that's what it was for me. That was the thing that was like, I need to focus on health right now. I really need to focus on, because if I don't have health, if I don't have happiness, I can't serve anyone. I can't serve anyone to the best of my ability. And that's all I want to do, is just be there, be present to the best of my ability for absolutely everyone that I can be. And if you don't have health, and you don't have the right mindset, and you don't have happiness, the rest is probably not even worth considering having, you know?